Hi guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on RHA CL2 Planar. Now these are the first planar magnetic driver earphones I've ever come across, because usually this technology is found in full-blown headphones such as the HiFiMan Sandara, which you can see over here. Now these earphones cost £800, and yes, they do come in a wired and wireless function, but that is a hefty premium to pay on a set of earphones. But in this review, I'll be comparing them to similar priced earphones and earphones that cost either a lot more or a lot less. Now, what I very much urge you to do is check in the description below for all the price links, all the different suggestions that I might mention or even forget to mention in this video. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first off, let's start off what you get in the box, and I must say I'm extremely impressed with what RHA have done over here. Not only from the actual layout of the box, it looks pretty neat and tidy, but in terms of what you get. So starting with cables, you've got a balanced 2.5mm terminated a cable which has got an MMCX connector on the edge, which connects to the earphones. You've also got a OFC cable, MMCX connector as well in order to connect to the earphones. A straight 3.5mm jack in this case. You've got a wide selection of tip, including foam tips, which come from Comply's TSX 400 range as well. You've got a neckband, which I'm just going to bring into shot over here. That is your Bluetooth wireless connectivity that you can have, and you can see the earphones are currently connected to them, and I'll get into them in just a bit. Then you've got an airline adapter, a USB-C to USB Type A charging cable, and a sort of nice carrying case, and then you've got a soft pouch carrying case. So in all honesty, what RHA have done over here is absolutely incredible. It's very much comprehensive and includes everything that you'd want from a set of earphones. Now, in terms of the earphones themselves, if I just bring them to the side, you can first of all note that they are pretty heavy, and that's because of their design. They've got a pretty solid construction, to say the least. They come in a solid a silver, black greyish type of look with RHA kind of printed on the side, and then within it you can see a left and right indicator with the CL2. Hopefully my camera picks it up, but it might kind of struggle. There's an MMCX connector, as I mentioned before, and then you've got a right and left indicator on the cable, obviously depending on the cable that you have. In this case, with the Bluetooth one, you've got a built-in microphone and a 3-button remote, and then the actual neckband itself, so it sits around your neck or behind your neck. You've got a USB-C port for charging, an on and off button, and then that's pretty much it. You've also got an NFC tag over here, which allows you to quickly pair via Bluetooth. Now, in terms of Bluetooth connectivity, they connect pretty fast and without any problems. What you will also notice is they have a Bluetooth the Bluetooth aptX codec as well by default. Unfortunately, they don't come with LDAC codec or aptX HD, so you just have to bear that in mind when it comes to connectivity. They're not going to transmit at the highest quality connection that you can have, but aptX is at least a good standpoint. Now, the reason I have them on terms of a Bluetooth mode is simply because I just wanted to test in terms of how they would do over Bluetooth and then compare them to how they would do over wired. The majority of the time I actually use them via wired mode, and in terms of this cable itself, I must say I'm not a big fan. First of all, it does get tangled pretty easily. It's pretty thick as well, and in terms of the memory wire which goes over the ear, I just don't really like this sort of bit which sits kind of behind your ear. It's pretty thick, and I didn't find the cable that comfortable. In fact, most of the time I found that the earphones would kind of try and wobble out of my ear canal. Comparing them to, say, custom made earphones, the memory cable over here is just a lot less intrusive than the one that's with the RHAs. Comparing them to, for example, the HiFiMan RE2000s, which have got no sort of memory cable at all and are very comfortable to wear, and then comparing them to, like, let's say the Custom Art, which again have got this sort of memory cable at the top, but then, you know, the cable is absolutely fantastic. So I must say I'm not very impressed with what how RHA's cable is, and it somewhat reminds me of the T20 range that RHA have, the wired variants as well. The cable is just not really, I'll say well made, but it's just not really comfortable. It looks really nice and everything. No complaints there in terms of longevity as well. It's a very hard strained cable, but when it comes to actually using it, not the best in the world. Now moving on to the earphones themselves, as I mentioned, they're pretty weighty, so you're going to feel them in your ear. They're not exactly light. In terms of noise isolation, passive noise isolation should I say, they do isolate relatively well, purely because of their size. Other than that, in terms of design and look, as I mentioned before, they've got this sort of silverish look to them. I must say they look quite nice from afar. They kind of remind me of like a premium Apple Watch, but nevertheless, the earphones themselves are really well made, and in terms of the looks wise, no complaints there. So to round off in terms of the build quality and design, I just wanted to show you how it looked like in the air from the side. And the front as well. You can see that they look, as I mentioned, pretty nice. Now let's talk about sound quality, the most important part. How do these planar magnetic drivers compare to full-blown planar magnetic headphones, let alone earphones from balanced armature driver earphones to custom-made earphones with balanced armature drivers and dynamic drivers? Well, I must say straight off the bat, I'm not impressed. I really didn't like these in pretty much all aspects, and the biggest thing for me was, yes, it had sort of like a flat kind of neutral type of sound, which can be deemed as boring as some, but that wasn't really an excuse for it to be kind of lacking in terms of the low end, to be kind of missing that top end extension that you'd like, and really missing that sort of instrument separation and that sort of tonality that you'd expect from a set of £800 earphones. So let's get into the individual sound frequencies. First of all, the bass. Yes, there is some sub-bass extension. It does extend relatively well. However, it is cut off, and you're not going to get that sort of deep pronounced sound that you would expect from a set of class-leading dynamic drivers. Even some balanced armature drivers, so for example the SH2s which I had over here, they just extended a lot better in terms of the sub-bass and delivered a sort of more precise sounding sub-bass. Again, all things considered, these are £800 earphones. I'm not comparing them to £200 or £100 earphones. In terms of the mid-bass, it was pretty pronounced. They had a pretty loud kind of shunt that was kind of felt. And it had good sort of accuracy as well, so I had no complaints in terms of its mid-bass response. It was pretty much in line with what I would expect from a class-leading set of earphones. In terms of the mid-range, I was a little bit disappointed over here. It didn't sound recessed or pushed back, it just sounded very, well, dull. It didn't really offer anything. And of course, you might say, oh, that's because most of the earphones you hear, or the earphones that you like, have a sort of V-shaped sound signature. And yes, they do. They generally do have more V-shaped sound signature than most other earphones I come across, but that's not an excuse for it to sound rather dull. In this respect, the earphones just didn't deliver what I was expecting. Some people might love them in terms of how they deliver this sort of very boring type of sound, but to me, they just really didn't sound great in terms of any sort of a way I connected them, being wireless or wired, and connecting them to, be my Yugo 2 DAC at home, or my XDSD on the go, or even directly to the phone. I know that's criminal to some, but it has to be tested. No matter what sort of source I used, it just really didn't deliver that mid-range. And yes, you could EQ them, but then I could EQ anything in the world in theory. So anyway, in the mid-range, I wasn't too impressed, and it did deliver a rather flat-ish sound, but it just didn't work in terms of what I was throwing at it, and that ranged from classical music to R&B, EDM type of music. The upper mids as well sounded a little bit odd, not quite what I expected. In terms of the highs, they extended a little bit well, but then kind of rolled off at the top end and didn't provide that kind of clarity that you'd expect from a set of flagship earphones. Yet again, all of its competitors, and even the likes of, let's say, the Westone W60s or Shure's 846s, just sound a lot better in the highs. They extend a lot better and they provide that sort of extension that you'd like to hear. And I must say, when I started cranking them up, and especially when I was driving them via the Yugo 2 and kind of pushing them more than I would actually really like to listen to them to, in quite honesty, I felt that they started becoming a little bit sibilant, which was really odd because they were rolled off yet sibilant. So yeah, it didn't really work really well there. Then, to add to its misery, its soundstage was really closed off, and it just didn't really encapsulate me in any sense when I was listening to them. And yes, before you say, they had plenty of burn-in. Usually around 30 to 40 hours is what I usually run in, but because I use them on sort of a daily basis, almost like I use with the custom art, and sometimes I do regret using and testing earphones a lot because I don't get to use my daily drivers, I use these for around 50 hours, and in that time frame I just didn't feel that they opened up or really delivered anything that I was happy with. The instrument separation was lacking, the tonality sounded a little bit off because it just didn't have that room to breathe. In terms of the width and depth, it had relatively good depth, but the width was missing. It just didn't really sound like it was, well, it was definitely not replicating full-blown headphones, but in comparison to class-leading earphones, it just didn't have that sort of positional cues that I would like to have. So overall, in terms of sound quality, I was actually very much disappointed with these, and it's not often I would come across an earphone and say I've really disliked them in pretty much every sense. In this respect, the sound quality of the CL2s really didn't work well with me, and your mileage may vary, you might very much disagree with me, but to me they just didn't sound great. And given the options that you can find at £800, there's so many better options. Now, don't get me wrong, the RHAs have a fantastic overall package. You're getting a wired and wireless function all in one. And of course, you could buy a £100 or £120 Shure adapter to turn any wired earphones into a wireless earphone, but that doesn't come as standard with any other earphone, at least at this sort of level that I can think of. So the fact that RHA have thought of the mobile world, but also thinking of the audiophile world by including a 2.5mm and 3.5mm jack cable and a very beautiful package which encapsulates everything that I would expect from a high-end audio company, I have to say props to them, but really the thing that really fails to deliver is the sound quality. So there we go, that's been my honest, unbiased, unpaid opinion of these earphones. You can disagree with me if you want. I'm more than happy to hear your comments. Let me know what you think, especially if you own these. It'll be interesting to know what your experience is in comparison to what other earphones that you've heard. To give you a background, I've heard about 120 to around 150 different earphones. There's a large bracket there just because I've lost count, simply put. And my daily drivers are the HiFiMan RE2000s, which retailed for around £1,300, £1,200. So that's my kind of benchmark that I'm going by, so just give you an idea. So there we go, guys. I've been Totally Dubbed. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. Make sure you give it a like, comment, subscribe, favorite, and share, and all that good stuff. Take care, guys. Totally Dubbed out. Bye-bye.